and I'm the Green Party candidate for state control. I want to thank you all for coming out here this morning. And I'm going to be joined with Howie Hawkins, the Green Party candidate for governor. One of the key issues as a state controller is the creation of a state bank. And a state bank would help deal with a number of issues. It would provide funding for projects for small businesses that otherwise have problems getting funding from the private banks. It would help local governments. You can basically reduce the interest payments that school boards and towns and cities have to pay to both finance their infrastructure projects, but also to get short-term credit lines to help them with cash flow situations. We would like the public bank to also provide banking services to low-income individuals who often charge very exorbitant rates to get, for instance, things like check cashed. And one growing issue is that a state bank can provide financing for the growing marijuana industry. Once New York, we actually have legalized it for medical marijuana, once we've done it for marijuana in general. Often the banks that are regulated by the Federal Reserve refuse to provide credit. Of course, the federal government does not yet legalize marijuana, so that's a side issue, but it is an important one. There has been a growing public clamor for public banks, particularly after the financial crisis of a decade ago, when many businesses found themselves starved for access to credit. Fortunately, we do have a century-old model that we can build upon. The state of North Dakota has had a public bank initially designed to help farmers, but it's also been quite helpful to helping students. It's one of the most profitable banks in the United States. I believe last year its return on capital profit was about 17%, which is quite good. The governor of New Jersey, Governor Murphy, who campaigned recently to create a public bank, has introduced legislation in the New Jersey legislature to establish one. There will be a referendum ballot initiative charter amendment on the ballot in November in Los Angeles about establishing a public bank, and there is a broad-based coalition that is emerging in New York City. One of the areas where access to credit can also be very important is particularly trying to move to more worker cooperative, worker ownership of businesses. Having a state bank that would provide funding for that would be quite helpful. New York right now, the number's a little bit unclear, but keeps about $8 to $10 billion in private banks at this point to handle cash flow, make sure there's money on hand to pay bills. That money gets reinvested everywhere. One of the things that a state public bank would do is ensure that the funds, in fact, remain in New York State to the benefit of individuals and local residents and local businesses. In general, I support the concept of a public bank. I think there's a problem with the whole private banking system. Should be much more democratically controlled, much more government controlled. You see a lot of government banks, for instance, in Germany, which is widely seen as the best run economy in Europe. Allowing the private individuals who primarily are interested in maximizing their profits for their investors is not the best way to run a banking system, the money system, and otherwise managing the overall economy. So at this point, I'd ask Howie Hawkins to come up and have Howie say a few words.
Governor Cuomo likes to say New York is leading progressive change in the country. But here we have a 100-year-old model out of the Republican state of North Dakota, a public bank that is a proven model. And next door in New Jersey, the new governor has put forward a bill for a state bank. but not a peep from Governor Cuomo, who gets a lot of donations from Wall Street, which is bleeding the state dry. It's parasitic. The share of income going to the top 1% in the state has grown from 12% in 1980 to 31% today. And most of that transfer of income and wealth has gone from the working people to the financial sector, which now gets 40% of all profits through interest on loans and through the real estate industry they finance, rents. And we know the affordable housing issues and how the rent has skyrocketed far beyond the cost of living. So here we have a model that can lower the cost of doing business in the state and lower the cost of government, because we're going to bypass Wall Street with the state bank. We don't have to pay interest, fees, and commissions to Wall Street to finance our businesses and our consumers, our people in our state, because we will lend directly to them with state funds, and the interest will come back to the public treasury. And this will have a lot of advantages for New York State. One thing they've done in North Dakota is they partner with community banks. We hardly have any left in New York State. You got to go to these big Wall Street banks to get a loan for your business. And they just have a financial template that some young guy, you know, he just checks off the boxes. He doesn't know your work ethic, your character, your social relationships in the community, the things that are the intangibles that make a business possible and successful. Community bankers can do that. They can make smarter loans. And then when it comes to infrastructure, we got enormous needs. We need, according to the Fast Forward Plan, around $37 billion over 10 years to fix the MTA. NYCHA needs $32 billion over 5 years to get the mold and the lead out, get rid of the rats and roaches, fix the elevators, fix the roofs, fix the boilers. And we need to build more public housing to deal with the affordability crisis, because it's a lot more cost effective to build public housing than to give subsidies to private developers, like the Trumps, who we now know were billing the government for subsidized housing way over what they should have from that New York Times report out this year. We've got to get ourselves out from under the thumb of Wall Street, and the state bank is the way to do that. And finally, to address the income inequality, the thing about worker co-ops that Mark mentioned is that the net income or profit of the firm is distributed to the people that created it, the workers, in proportion to the labor they contributed, instead of a profit going out to absentee owners like these guys on Wall Street. That would distribute income more equitably in the first place, because tax and transfer programs can only partially mitigate the extreme inequality that we have in the state, which is the highest of all 50 states. And what I would like to see a state bank do is what the financial institution at the center of the Mondragon cooperatives in Spain, very successful network of cooperatives, over 100 industrial cooperatives, billions and billions of dollars in revenue, and they have a whole benefit program, pensions and health care that really takes care of their people. They've had a 98% success rate in starting new businesses. And they were able to do that because they had an entrepreneurial division within their financial institution, which would look for business opportunities, do the initial planning, and then provide technical assistance and financing to get those businesses off the ground. We need to do that in New York so that people that want to go into business, I come out of the construction industry before I was a Teamster, and we did do a worker cooperative, but I know lots of people, they know their trades, and they'd like to get the full fruit of their labor, but the problem is they don't have the management skills. With a worker cooperative, the workers get together, they hire the managers to be part of the cooperative, and then you get the full fruit of your labor and a much better income. And so these are the things that a state bank can do, and I don't know what we're waiting for in New York State if we're supposed to be so progressive.